Hi everybody, welcome to Demo, the show where companies come in and they show us their latest products and platforms. Today I'm joined by Alex Dolce. He is a sales engineer at Abnormal Security. Welcome to the show, Alex.
Thanks for having me, Keith.
All right, so tell me a little bit about Abnormal Security, who they are, and then what you're going to be showing us on Demo today.
Absolutely. So Abnormal is a cloud email security platform. We're powered by behavioral artificial intelligence. And the biggest differentiator from what you might find from a normal email architecture, right, is that we're actually API based.
Okay. And I'm assuming with email security, this is the security team within an enterprise, or is there a dedicated email team as a subset of that? Who is this designed for?
Yeah, great question. So we really work with both teams. It really just, obviously the IT team oftentimes manages the email platform, so they'll be involved. However, the security team is very oftentimes interested in the alerts that we're generating.
Okay, and what problems are you solving? I'm assuming, phishing, spam, all of the really bad stuff that comes into a mailbox.
Exactly right. So credential phishing, social engineering, and keep in mind business email compromise even is still a $50 billion problem today, according to the FBI.
Wow. And so, how is this different than maybe just the like a Microsoft 365 or some of these major platforms? I was just assuming that it's all baked into that, but there's not things that are baked in, right?
Yeah, so we're directly integrated into Office 365 or Google Workspace, right? So they will actually see the message first.
Yeah.
But a huge differentiator and kind of the difference between the two of us, right, is that they're looking at it from a threat intelligence point of view, right? So think known bad, some kind of list that they can reference to say, hey, this is a bad email.
Yeah.
We need to stop this, right? But really, the problem with modern day attacks is that there's really just not a lot for them to go off of, right? You have phishing as a service tools that allow you to generate zero-day links to get by. You can use freemium services like Gmail to send plain text emails that look entirely legitimate, which I'll kind of show you in an example here, right? So that, from a threat intel standpoint, if you look at that, looks perfectly clean, right? So you really have to kind of look at it from a different angle in order to stop those attacks. And that's where the behavioral piece comes in, right? Is where you can look at it from, really we use three pillars: identity, behavior, and content, right? And looking at it from that angle really allows you to see a lot more going on than strictly looking at it from that threat intelligence point of view.
So if a company wasn't using your platform, would a lot of this stuff get missed, or would they maybe have to use a different platform or a different service?
Yeah, so a lot of the stuff, when we plug in it, we kind of see what lands behind Microsoft, Google, or a third-party gateway, right? And we do see a lot of it landing in inboxes today.
Right. I know when we talked before the show, one of my biggest things is when I get an email, there's that little report phishing button, and then I never know where it goes.
Yeah.
So we're about to find out. I'm hoping that this is where we're going to go. So let's jump into the demo.
For sure. Yeah. So I'm actually going to be focusing on our AI security mailbox today, which is exactly that. It's an integration into the reporting mechanism that essentially organizations, pretty much everybody has today, right?
Yeah.
And we're very agnostic to the tool that is used to do that. We're just plugging into the mailbox on the other end. So lots of folks will be using the report phishing button embedded in Microsoft or Google Workspace, or you may have a third-party tool to do that. So I'm going to start.
And I think you were telling me too that companies have dedicated people that basically have to go through these emails,
100%,
or those requests, right?
Yes.
So if I report a phishing thing, somebody's getting an inbox,
yes,
and to check it out, right?
For sure. So a lot of larger companies have created SOAR automations behind this, right? But even with those, there's typically always some kind of manual review, especially if the judgment comes out to be an unknown, for example, right? If it's not so cut and dry or doesn't fit into those playbooks, somebody is reviewing those on the other end.
Right.
And then again, for the smaller organizations, it's typically almost manual, unfortunately. So this is a message that someone might want to report, right? Something that looks legitimate, but you might not entirely be sure, right?
Okay.
So here we have Jonathan Green, who actually works at this organization. He's not sending from his work email, though. That would be this. He's sending from what could be a personal email address, nvt8765@gmail.com, right? Basically saying, hey, Josh, who is Senior Director Accounting, right? So this is his role, really common. Scrape LinkedIn to find the right contacts, right? Can you get a couple checks out to our vendor? I'm not available, but I'll get you instructions, and it has to happen before noon.
And this is one of those typical business email compromise types.
100%, yeah. So, obviously this is a detection that Abnormal made, but if we're looking at it from Josh's point of view for a minute, right? Like, he's scrolling through this, he sees Jonathan's name, he sees no bad links, no bad attachments. From that human perspective, he may not necessarily, depending on the training he's had, raise the red flags here, right? So this is when, if he wants to be sure, he might report this to via his fish button to his organization. And essentially when we plug into that, on the other end, Abnormal has created an entirely optimized and automated workflow around that. So we were just talking about how, today it might be a really manual process for organizations to do this, right? Everything that comes into that box now is going to get an automatic judgment from Abnormal and an automated response to the end user as well, closing the loop, right? So security analysts having to go through these might not even get to those responses, right? Or it may take them, depending on the volume they have, an hour plus.
Yeah.
So this is all happening within a minute or so, right?
Oh, okay. Cool.
The new analysis, the generated response, and closing the feedback loop to the user. So that's essentially what we're doing here. So that ends up in the box. It gets its analysis. But believe it or not, right, we kind of talked about, okay, that message was malicious. But believe it or not, these numbers that I'm showing you here are not just like made up, right? When we go into an organization, we start working with our customers, this is fairly indicative of what we see across the board, right? Where a lot of what ends up in that mailbox is safe or spam, right? So now you have SOC analysts working through the safe stuff, right? And that doesn't matter. It could be mid-size, small, government space, enterprise, small business, doesn't matter, right? Again, these numbers tend to pop up where you have a lot of safe or spam in there. So this is a great, from an operations standpoint, we're really able to save the teams a lot of time, right? Get them doing a lot more important things than managing a box of emails, right? Get them doing the threat hunting, incident response that they should be doing, right? And getting this taken off their backs for them.
All right, so you've got an example there of the malicious one, right?
Yes.
We're gonna dig into that a little bit.
Yeah, so this one here, this is another malicious message. So essentially, the other thing we're doing, right, is we'll also identify who else received this message, right? So let's say 1,000 people got this message. For the less advanced organizations, that's a PowerShell script that you have to write to go figure out who else got this.
Oh, okay.
We'll proactively do that, and we'll pull it out of their mailboxes too if it's bad as well.
Right. So if there's people in the organization that may not have seen it yet, it's just sitting in their inbox. You can get it out there before they even see it.
Yeah, or read it and didn't report it, right? So, yeah. Yeah.
Click, click, click,
Yeah,
click,
exactly.
Red,
Unfortunately,
red,
that does happen,
Yeah.
And that's what we're here to solve.
Okay. You've got some other cool stuff to show too, right?
Yeah, I want to show really how easy it is to configure
this is cool.
it. Yeah. So there's kind of two ways to get that feedback to the user, right? Number one is the preset responses. So essentially, the other thing we'll do that I haven't mentioned yet is we'll actually plug into your phishing simulation solution, and what we'll do is more or less send responses if they report a simulation. Hey, good job for doing that. But the preset responses are great in that you can throw your logos in there, kind of configure how you want them to look.
Okay.
They will go back to the user the same way every time though, right? Now though, we actually have GenAI responses built into the solution, right? So this is actually where you're going to coach that GenAI assistant on how to communicate with your users, any training you want to reinforce, and any kind of, how to provide that feedback, right? And it will come back, you can say, hey, I want this to come to my, from my IT team alias or my SOC alias, right? And you can throw a GenAI disclaimer in there, or you can make it seem like a human. It's really up to the organization.
Right.
Right? But essentially, the user benefits from this because they receive that instant coaching and feedback on what they've reported. And you can make this anything. Every organization is going to have a different set of custom instructions, right? You can even say, in your responses, talk like a pirate, right?
I was just going to suggest this.
Yes, exactly. So you can say, can you tell me if this email is malicious? Send the message. Give that a second just to come back, and we'll say, yeah, ahoy, matey. Right? So yeah, obviously probably not the best way to communicate to your users, but if you wanted to kind of test the solution and have a little fun with it, you can definitely get creative here.
It's perfect for this type of episode.
Yeah, exactly. For sure.
Yeah. And you've got some, obviously you can integrate with other existing systems and things like that. And
for sure, yeah. So again, for this part of the solution, we really call ourselves like phishing button agnostic, right? Any third party. I will say the Microsoft and Google buttons are embedded in their solutions, right? So they never go away. A lot of times folks tend to go towards that direction just because they're there anyways. And they're included in your licenses, right?
Right. And so can people kind of set this up pretty quickly? Can they get a free demo?
Absolutely, yeah. So we run read-only POVs at Abnormal, and because we're API-based, right, one of the great things about that is we've created a 6-click integration with Google Workspace or Office 365.
Okay.
And I'll just kind of walk through that really quick. Again, this says read-write, however, our POVs are read-only. And because we sit behind the solutions you have today, behind your gateway if you have one, and behind Office 365 and Google, everything that kind of they miss, we end up picking up and seeing, right? So in a 7-day time span, you can really see the gaps that you're facing in email security. So I'm just gonna hit get started here. We just need a global admin with Office 365, in this case, Google the same way, just to accept the permissions on behalf of our enterprise app. It's not just installing our app, right? It's not giving us those permissions.
Okay.
And then hitting accept. And that's it, right? Everything is all set. It is literally 6 or 7 clicks, right? We'll spend the first week analyzing organizational data and establishing email behaviors in the environment, right? And we do that in part by running a historical look back of 45 to 60 days on your email environment.
Right.
Once we understand the normal, we can go and profile the abnormal, right? It's where the company names come from. And by day 7, I pull together a report of essentially what we found. You get access to your portal. And in terms of the AI security mailbox, you just provide us with where that button sends those messages, plug it right in, and we start processing the data there as well.
That is awesome. Awesome stuff. Alex Dolce from Abnormal Security, thanks again.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the demo.
Great to be here.
That's going to do it for this week's episode. Be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, add any thoughts that you have below. Join us every week for new episodes of Demo. I'm Keith Shaw. Thanks for watching.